Um, okay. A few more people coming in. So tonight we'll be talking about upcycling for urban gardens. I'll offer some ideas, tips, and tricks for building upcycled infrastructure in your urban garden. If you have any questions while I'm presenting, please save them for the end, or you can put them in the chat. I'll be talking for about an hour, and we will then have a chance for a question and answer session around 7 p.m. Sorry, I just added a few more people in. And so, yeah, while I'm presenting, please mute yourself. And I am covering a lot of ideas in this presentation, and many of the projects I'll be reviewing are quite in depth. So I'm just kind of giving a brief overview of, kind of like an a la carte of ideas that you can pick from. So please note that I will be sending resources with detailed step-by-step directions for all of the projects that I covered during tonight's presentation in a follow-up email. Okay, let's see. Oops, sorry. Okay. All right. That should have worked. Can you, okay. Sorry, it's flipping through a bunch of slides, but I think it went to the next slide. Okie dokie. All right, so we'll start off talking about why you would want to use upcycled materials in your urban garden. Upcycling is a creative way to save money and reduce waste while building your urban garden. There are many beautiful ways to use materials that are often dumped in vacant lots around the city to create an urban garden that has a unique aesthetic with diverse functionality. During this presentation, we'll discuss ways old tires, shopping carts, glass and plastic bottles, as well as other common waste items can be reused to create raised beds, chicken coops, ponds, compost systems, and more. Using upcycled materials in your garden can save you money while helping to save the planet from more trash. So the first upcycled item we'll be discussing today are tires. So you can convert used or recycled tires into planters that can hold various flora from vegetables to herbs and flowers. Recycled tires make great planters because they're sturdy and withstand cold temperatures and heavy wind and rain. They're also deep enough for plants to establish roots, and you can drill holes in them to promote water drainage. As tires heat up in the sun, the soil dries faster, keeping the dirt warm and preventing root rot. It's also easier to control weed growth in tire gardens as the contained environment doesn't allow weeds to spread as easily. You can set up a tire garden by lining your tire, filling it with soil, and then planting seeds or plants of your preference. Stack the tires to create raised beds or use single tires as separate and contained planters. You can add a bit of color by painting the outside of your tire planter to match your garden design or landscape. And if you're using tires for a vegetable or herb garden, just as I mentioned before, be sure to line it with a garden tarp or landscape fabric before adding soil. This material will create a barrier between the tire material and the plant, preventing the tire from touching the soil and the plant's roots. Edible plants such as vegetables and herbs are safe to grow in tires. While rubber tires are made of different chemicals, it's unlikely that they'll leak into the soil if you properly line your tire with a tarp or landscape fabric. Tires usually release the majority of their chemicals upon incineration, not when they're dormant. And additionally, the most concerning chemicals in tires are not water soluble, so it's unlikely that they'll leak into your soil or veggies. There's a certain amount of off-gassing in the first year of tires' life, but that almost always occurs when the tire is on a car. So by the time it reaches your garden, the tire is breaking down very slowly, more on a scale of decades. So the amount of chemicals that would end up in your food is more than likely negligible. So some tips for creating beautiful and functional tire planters are to make sure they are clean before you paint, line, or plant in them. If you choose to paint them, use an acrylic-based paint that will withstand harsh weather. There are many ways to use tires to adorn your garden and pot your plants. The next time you change your car tires or come across free tires available on a vacant lot or on Craigslist, consider using them in your garden design in the following ways. So stacking tires is a great way to use up a large selection of old tires that would otherwise have no use, and it creates a functional feature in your garden that can be filled with a variety of plants. The many separate planters it creates throughout its layers are an excellent place to house vegetables and herbs. You could stack tires in a short and shallow wall or as tall as is accessible for you, ensuring they are stable and not liable to fall down. You could create a retaining wall or privacy screen with stacked tires, or use a wall of tires to section a larger garden off into different areas. The style of tire planter pictured on this slide is known as a blooming tire planter. You can easily create this style of planter using only a knife or hacksaw. These planters are visually appealing and are a fun project to create with children. If you have a large vertical space to cover, such as the side of a garage or an old wall around the perimeter of your garden, you could spruce it up by fixing old tires to it, filling them with dirt, and then planting them. You can choose plants that thrive in shallow soils and don't need lots of root space for this design. And plants like that would be like lettuce or spinach or small flowers. So here are some other inspiring images of various configurations you can create your tire garden into. You can truly give your creativity free range with these types of planters. They're also a great option for a kid's garden because of their versatile sculptures that you can build in, such as the teacup planter pictured here, or the flower planter, or I don't know, a lot of them I think would look really cool at a school, and I've seen them at some schools before, so they're just fun. So used tires can also be made into upcycled compost bins. There are a few different options for creating these type of compost bins, as you can see in the picture on this slide. As with all upcycled garden projects, you can take your own creative liberties when building these structures. And to create the compost bin in the first picture on this slide, gather 5 large tires, cut the sidewalls out of both sides using a sharp utility knife so you end up with rubber rings of tire treads. After you have several of the hoops made, place one on the spot where you want your bin to be located. As you fill the first tire hoop with compost, simply place another on top of it and fill it with compost as well. To harvest, you can disassemble your tire stack and dig compost out from the bottom of the stack. The compost bin pictured in the middle is one of the easiest, as it feeds your garden in situ without you needing to turn the compost or bother with scooping it out. You simply stack your old tires up, drop your vegetable peels inside, and plant your veggies around the bin. The compost will decay inside the tire and release nutrient juices that the plants around the compost bin will soak up and thrive on. This works particularly well for vegetables that are constantly hungry for nutrients, such as tomatoes. And you can create the last compost bin pictured in this slide with a drainage tile by cutting the sidewalls out of 3 tires except for one, then stack the tires vertically with the uncut sidewall tire at the very bottom. Finally, when the tires are stacked, clear out a spot in the center for the drainage tile and begin to fill your tires with compost. The drainage tile will be used for allowing water, oxygen, and nitrogen into the compost. So you can also repurpose old tires into a rotating compost container for your worms. If you're into worm composting, vermicomposting, yeah. The picture on the left is an example of one way you can build your upcycled tire worm compost. This model can be created by gathering 3 tires. First, you'll cut out one wall in your tire, and in the other wall, create several large drainage holes. Then place a 50 by 50 inch mesh wire sheet inside of the tire. Repeat these steps for all 3 tires, and place your tires on a raised wooden structure such as an upcycled pallet or any impervious structure that promotes drainage, really. To set up your worm farm, fill your bottom tire with bedding, place the second tire over the first, and add worms and worm appropriate food scraps and another layer of bedding. There are multiple ways one can create a worm farm using upcycled tires. The diagram on the right shows a different way you can create a worm compost out of tires using slightly different materials, but with a similar concept. Directions on a few of these ways to create tire worm compost bins will be sent out after this workshop. So creating a pond out of a large used tire, like a tractor tire, is another great option for making your garden more ecologically integrated through upcycling. Incorporating a pond into your garden can be highly beneficial for the health and fertility of your plants. Pond sludge makes an effective and eco-friendly fertilizer for your garden beds. The buildup in ponds contains a lot of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium from things like decomposing sticks and leaves. You can apply this to your plants by mixing sludge into the soil, layering it on top of your soil, or using it similarly to how you'd use mulch. Ponds also support beneficial wildlife and can help establish your garden as a regenerative refuge within the broader ecosystem. The tire pond pictured in this slide can be created using just an old tire, rocks, a tarp, sand, gravel, and a shovel, as well as a jigsaw and a slab of wood. And since this is a bit of an in-depth process to create, I'll be sending a guide out to you all. I'll describe it now. You can also create an amazing potato tower out of tires. This design is a great alternative to the traditional way of raising potatoes in rows and is suitable for any small urban growing space. Growing potatoes in tires is inexpensive, fun for the whole family, and the best part of all is that it helps Mother Earth. Potatoes don't like getting waterlogged, so be sure to create good drainage below the tires. This can be done by placing tires over a bed of rocks or a heavy-duty upcycled pallet. Pallets are good for everything. And yeah, so you can just choose a sunny spot in your yard, garden, or even on a patio or balcony. Stack 2 or 3 tires and fill them with damp earth and compost to just over half the depth of the stacked tires. Then place 4 or 5 seed potatoes in the stacks about 2 inches deep with the eyes or shoots facing upwards. Cover with a couple inches of soil and don't forget to water. As the plants grow to about 2 to 4 inches, you can add another tire to the stack. You can add more soil around the young plants as well to support them, and continue mounding up soil around the emerging plants until your stack is 3 tires high. Young potatoes will be forming all the way up the stack of the tires. Your potatoes will thrive in the warm environment of soil-filled tires. And in Baltimore, potatoes can be planted at the end of March or in early April. If conditions are right, you will see healthy potato plants growing after about 6 weeks. You will be able to harvest early potatoes when the flowers on your potato plants have opened or their buds have fallen off. Young potatoes should be about the size of an egg. And you can wait to harvest your main crop of potatoes until the potato plant foliage has turned brown. And once the foliage is at this point, you can cut off the stems, wait a few days, and pull up the plants with potatoes attached. And yeah, that concept kind of, you can apply it to making potato towers with like a lot of different materials. So now we'll talk about pallets. I was already bringing them up. They're great. And they are another wonderful, versatile item that can be upcycled into a variety of different beneficial garden structures. Pallets are a common material that can be found in industrial areas and are often given away for free on websites like Craigslist or Nextdoor. Not all pallets are safe to use in your garden, though. Pallets used for shipping are either heat treated or certain specifications heat treated to certain specifications or fumigated with methyl bromide, which is a chemical that affects the central nervous system and respiratory system. Heat treated pallets bear the initial HT on them, or sometimes KD for kiln dried. Pallets treated with methyl bromide bear the initials MB. So when a pallet is heat treated, there are no chemicals used in the process, which makes them completely safe for people to use in upcycling projects. So just be sure you look out for an HT or KD marking on the pallets that you want to use. So one of the most popular ways you can upcycle a heat treated pallet in your garden is to create a vertical planter. This project can be done easily using only a pallet, landscape fabric, a staple gun, hammer, nails, and potting soil. You can start by sanding down rough spots on your pallet, staple fabric along the back, bottom, and sides of the pallet, taking care at the corners to fold in the fabric so no soil will spill out. Lay the pallet flat and pour potting soil through the slats, pressing soil down firmly. Begin planting and starting at the bottom of the pallet and ending at the top. Make sure soil is firmly packed in each layer as you move up, and you can add soil as needed so plants are snugly and tucked in together at the end. When you water your vertical garden, start at the top and water each subsequent section a little less, as your water will naturally seep through to the bottommost plants. To stabilize your vertical planter, you can either lean it against a wall or fasten the back of it to metal poles so that it sits upright. Most flowers, herbs, and succulents do really well in vertical pallet planters. For veggie gardeners, the best plants to grow in pallet or vertical pallet planters are dwarf or bush varieties of vegetables and herbs, or compact fruits like strawberries or small cherry tomatoes. Plants that produce many fruits or flowers per plant are ideal for vertical pallet gardens. So as you can see in these pictures, there are many variations of ways to create vertical pallet planters. Many of these can be created using the same basic steps previously described. You can also use these same principles to create a pallet planter that simply lies on the ground instead of mounting it against a wall. Pallets can also be deconstructed to create raised garden beds, such as the ones pictured here. Pallet lumber is versatile and can be used to build raised beds of many different shapes and sizes. The unique structures of pallets can increase the growing area in a variety of ways. You can consider building extra planting spaces into the deck boards, as shown in the top middle picture of this slide. Pallets can be cut and fastened together to create triangular vertical raised garden beds, such as those pictured on the top left corner of the slide. So the basic principles of creating a deconstructed raised bed from upcycled pallets are pictured here. You can begin by removing the pallet's planks using a crowbar. Take plank, take the planks and line them up for each board. Use the small pieces and misshapen ones to make the side pieces. Hammer 2 nails for each plank on each side. And do this 4 times and you should get a raised bed that looks beautiful, simple, and handmade. So on this slide, you can see it's a no-cut pallet raised bed, which is super simple and is a great choice for beginner upcyclers. You can start with 4 small pallets and arrange them on their sides to make a box with 3 large pieces of wood on the bottom of the pallet facing outwards. Next, nail the pallets together at the corners to secure them in place. Once the box is assembled, use a garden bed liner, such as landscaping fabric, to line the inside of the garden bed and then fill it with soil and other organic materials. If you plan to grow smaller plants and flowers or climbing crops such as beans, try removing 2 planks from the outside of your bed, filling the outside borders with soil and growing vertically. Excuse me. If you already have raised beds or have plans to build some and would like to elevate them, consider using pallets as a platform. Taller raised beds are easier on your back, making them more accessible and enjoyable to work in for long periods of time. Simply stack pallets to a comfortable height and set or build your raised bed on top of it. It may be necessary to secure the pallets together to avoid the risk of them toppling over. Pallets can also be used as trellising backboards to provide additional support for plants growing in raised beds. To create a simple pallet trellis, prop up a pallet with 2 pieces of scrap wood, attaching the top of the pallet to the scrap wood using a string or other sturdy material. Another great idea for upcycling a pallet or many pallets in your garden is to create a compost bin. If you have the room, consider making a 3-bin system. Assembly of this pallet compost bin is straightforward and intuitive. All you need for the 3-bin system are 7 pallets, 3-inch all-weather deck screws, and a drill with the appropriate bit. You can assemble your bins where you plan on leaving them, preferably on a level surface. Use 1 pallet for each outer wall, 2 for the dividers to separate the bins, and 3 across the back. Using several screws, attach 1 pallet that will serve as an outer wall to another pallet, and that will be the part of the back side of the bin. Next, add one of the inner pallets that will serve as a divider for each section. Secure it against the first back pallet with several screws. Be sure to offset this inner pallet when securing it to the back side. You'll need this extra surface space to attach the next middle back pallet section to the divider. So now, after all of that, you add your next pallet in to make up the middle section of the back side, securing it to the dividing pallet. And with the remaining 4 pallets, you work your way across for the next 2 sections in the same manner. So yeah, you can make this with just, as a 1-tier system instead of 3 if you don't have the room. And so the logic of the 3-bin system is that you add your compost to the first bin and then move on to the second and then do the same to the third. And that way you'll have compost in different stages of decomposition always ready for you to use. And I'll be sending a picture guided instruction of how to create this. I'm not sure I described it super well. So other interesting ways you can integrate a pallet into your garden is to create a pallet garden arch or a pallet fence, a pallet bench, or a tool wall. You can even design your entire garden around having both horizontal and vertical pallet raised beds, which look super cool. And yeah, I'll be sending out directions on how to make these as well. So now we'll move on to another common item that you may find discarded around the city or, you might see it be given away for free online. Milk crates are a versatile and functional addition to any upcycled garden design. They're easy to convert into raised planters and can be stacked to any height, making them an affordable option for creating accessible gardening spaces for people of all abilities. Using milk crates in your garden gives you the opportunity to organize your plants in an efficient way using a technique known as square foot gardening. Square foot gardening is a practice of dividing your growing area into small square sections. The aim of square foot gardening is to create a small but orderly and intensively planted vegetable garden. Milk crates are the perfect dimension for this, giving you the most out of small spaces available for planting. So to convert a milk crate into a planter, simply line them with landscape fabric or burlap in a single layer. Be sure to fit the fabric into the corners of the crate, leaving plenty of fabric hanging over all 4 top edges. Cut the fabric with scissors and then use a sharp tool to make holes in several places near the handles. Then thread a zip tie through the holes and secure. Repeat this on all 4 sides. Then fill your milk crate with potting soil and compost, water to moisten the soil. And yeah, then you can dig a hole, place your plant, if you're transplanting plants, into the soil, and yeah, make sure you kind of pack the soil down around that. And you can also directly sow seeds. Before you plant, you may want to test the drainage in your crate by doing a quick water test, just pouring some water through the milk crate and seeing if it drains out properly. If there are any drainage problems or if water is not really coming out, simply poke a few holes in the bottom of the landscape fabric in the crate. And if your milk crate bed is on the ground, consider putting a pallet underneath your crate to encourage even better drainage. Another tip for keeping your milk crate garden healthy is to be sure to water it regularly. During the hottest months of the year, you may need to water your milk crate every day, particularly if it's in a location that gets full sun exposure. So since a crate can only hold a small amount of soil, soil dries out faster than it would in the ground. You'll also need to take extra steps to manage root growth in your milk crate garden. In a traditional garden, plant roots are left in the ground between seasons and simply rot back into the soil. However, in a milk crate garden, you don't have the space or time for that. So at the end of the growing season, the soil in your crates will likely be root bound and not a great place to grow again next year. So if you're growing annuals at the end of the season, you'll want to dump the soil out on a tarp and separate any roots. Plant roots can quickly fill your entire crate and not give much space for plants to grow next year, as I already said, but the roots can be decomposed or put into your compost pile. And after you remove the roots and put your remaining soil back, you may need to bulk up your crate with a little bit of extra soil to make up for lost space. So some ideas for integrating milk crates into your garden design are to build raised or vertical garden beds. To create a raised bed, you can put several lined milk crates side by side. If you have a yard, it's normally more economical to make the walls of your raised beds out of wood or brick. However, milk crates are a great self-contained solution if you want to grow on an apartment, balcony, deck, or somewhere else that you don't want to make a huge mess of soil. And a milk crate garden is also an excellent choice for renters because you can easily pick them up and go if you decide to move. Milk crates can also be stacked vertically. This can give you lots of extra growing space along walls. One great idea for this type of garden design is to grow strawberries in a vertical garden tower made from milk crates. Growing strawberries vertically helps them to become larger and produce more fruit. This design also makes planting and harvesting a lot easier. Vertical milk crate planters are made using the same design principles of the single milk crate planter, with the exception of having holes punched in the side of the landscape fabric to allow plants to grow out from them. If your crates are stacked, plants won't be able to get any light from above, so these types of planters are really only useful for vining species that can grow hanging down from the sides. So to reduce the risk of damage or injury, it's recommended that you only stack milk crates 3 or 4 boxes high. So when considering what types of plants would grow best in a milk crate garden, the main thing to keep in mind is that you have a limited amount of space and depth for roots to grow. For vertical milk crate gardens, like I said, it's best to cultivate vining plants like cucumbers or nasturtium, strawberries. If your milk crate garden is laid out in beds instead of stacking, you have more options available. Believe it or not, you can even grow larger plants like peppers, cherry tomatoes, cabbages, zucchinis, and many other plants like greens in milk crate gardens. Unfortunately, however, you will only be able to fit one of these plants per crate. Herbs are also a great choice for planting in milk crate gardens, especially herbs like mint that are notorious for spreading around and taking over entire gardens. And planting in a crate is a great way to contain plants in general and, grow things only where you want them to grow. Root vegetables, unfortunately, are typically not a good choice for milk crate gardens, although you might be able to get away with radishes, small varieties of beets, turnips, garlic, and onions. Crops like carrots and parsnips are questionable as the shallow soil may not give them enough depth to develop properly. And large root vegetables like potatoes and rutabagas are out of the question. Plants that grow high like beans and peas and corn aren't really great choices either. They'll usually shade out other crates and you won't be able to fit enough plants in there to produce an abundant harvest. So another frequently dumped item around urban areas are shopping carts. Shopping carts have the potential to be upcycled in a few innovative ways in your urban garden. The first option is to create a mobile raised bed. You can retrofit a shopping cart into a raised bed garden by lining the inside of the cart in a way similar to milk crates. Simply line the inside of the cart with a burlap or landscape fabric and secure the lining using zip ties. You can then fill the cart with a mix of soil and compost up to about an inch or two from the top of the cart, and then plant your garden. As you can see from these pictures, there are a variety of different places and designs with which you can arrange your shopping cart garden bed. They can be placed directly in your yard, on the street outside of your house, or in any other area that might need a touch of upcycled creativity and plant life. So another even more creative option for upcycling a shopping cart in your garden is to convert your cart into a mobile chicken coop. This design was originally created by New Orleans-based architecture firm CrookedWorks. I recommend checking out their website. They got a lot of cool, like open source, creative upcycling things on there. The cart coop repurposes one of the most common objects of consumer culture in the service of pursuing agricultural self-sufficiency. With relatively little effort, shopping carts can lend themselves to this type of coop construction. Their modular form can scale up to accommodate a growing flock or be rearranged to fit a wide variety of spaces. Their sturdy mesh sides provide protection from predators, plentiful ventilation, and positive drainage when the unit is hosed down. And with the use of a few zip ties and a large sheet of scrap metal, any sort of roof shape can be attached to the shopping cart chassis. I think I'm saying that right. While 3 by 8 sections of corrugated metal are commonly dumped, free items in the urban environment, any material or large sheet shape can be used. This sheet material can be fixed to the sides of the cart using zip ties, a rope, or even rivets. The back plane of the shopping cart detaches easily as it is hinged to allow multiple carts to nest. This feature provides a good access point for feeding chickens and harvesting their eggs. And this plane can also be flipped down to meet the ground, allowing chickens to move in and out of the coop at will. Stacked boxes or mounted shelves on the interior create laying areas, feeding areas, and also a lofted roosting space for the chickens. And the interior of the cart with a raised roof can support up to 4 chickens per cart. And benefits of having a mobile chicken coop are that it can be moved around to spread chicken droppings as fertilizer throughout your garden. I thought that was super cool. Okay, cool. So moving on to glass bottles. Glass bottles are another easily, freely accessible item that can fuel a variety of cost-effective and sustainable infrastructure projects for your garden. As you can see in this slide, there are many creative options for projects that you can use glass bottles to build, such as colorful borders for your garden beds, or even to create an entire raised bed of their own. So creating edging or walls on your property using glass bottles can be easy and fun. Glass bottles can be placed neck down in the soil to create attractive edging around beds and borders. One thing to note is that bottles placed upside down in the soil can also be filled with water and have holes pricked in the lids. They will then add thermal mass to keep temperatures stable in a growing area and can slowly release water for plants in the same way as watering globes do. Glass bottles can also be used like bricks in walls constructed from cob or other natural building materials. Another great idea for upcycling glass bottles are to turn them into a solar heated garden bed. This amazing idea makes it possible to grow plants in cold and snowy conditions. The glass bottle hotbeds, as they're also called, not only provide much needed warmth to your plants, but are also an entirely eco-friendly project. They work by harnessing the heat of sunlight and transferring it into the soil through the glass bottles. So the process of this is as follows. When sunlight heats the bottles, the warm air inside expands. This warm air then passes through the soil, raising the temperature of the garden bed. And by maintaining the right temperature, this technique can either accelerate or prolong the growing season of your plants. You can create this by collecting as many glass bottles as possible and cleaning the inside of each of them. And then choose a suitable location for the hot garden bed, as we will call it. And it can't be moved once you build it, so make sure you like where it's at. And then you can arrange the glass bottles layer by layer and secure them with a concrete mixture or something more eco-friendly. And ensure the neck of each bottle is open and facing inward. Stack the bottles according to your desired height with at least 3 layers, and fill the inside of the raised bed with a mixture of soil and compost. And then you can start planting your crops and enjoy the benefits of your solar heated garden bed. Yeah, I thought this idea was super cool. There's like a lot of plants like that grow in really well in like Baltimore, that can last throughout the winter anyway, like chard or collards or just like most greens. And I think those would be great options to grow in this because they're already able to grow through the winter pretty well, but this would just kind of increase their production, I think. Yeah, so glass bottles can not only be used in low bed edging or walls, or to create garden beds, they can also be incorporated into eco-built garden structures. For example, glass bottles can be used to create a north-facing thermal mass structure of a greenhouse, or can even be used as an alternative to greenhouse glazing. So here you can see some cool examples of greenhouses you can build with upcycled bottles, and I'll be sending directions out after the workshop about those. Okay, so now we're moving on to plastic bottles, as some of you all were interested in. So plastic bottles have just as much potential to be used in your garden as glass bottles. With a little cutting and basic crafting, you can give this common trashed item a new life and level up your green thumb in the process. You can turn the plastic bottles into planters, irrigation systems, garden tools, and many other useful items. So in the first picture on this slide, you can see a diagram for creating a bird feeder from an upcycled water bottle, straw, and other scraps you may have lying around your house. As you can see in the other pictures, there are many variations of plastic water bottle bird feeders that you can create. And these easy and fun projects are wonderful to do with children and can turn an ecologically destructive waste product into something that provides benefit for local fauna. And yeah, so another easy idea for using plastic bottles in gardening is to use them as a cloche. A cloche is a covering for protecting plants from cold temperatures. To make a cloche out of a plastic bottle, cut the bottom off and then gently cover the seedlings that you planted with the remainder. When you cut the bottom of the plastic bottle off, you can cut it in a way so it's still usable, and you can reuse this part as a small pot for your seed startings, and just by punching a few holes in the bottom of it and filling it with soil and then planting your seeds. So it's a 2-for-1 with these projects. Yeah, so you can also use plastic bottles to create an easy DIY garden pest trap. If you're into that, you can start creating this trap by cutting the neck off of a bottle, a quarter to a third of the way from the top. Remove the cap, reverse the top part, and insert it into the bottom of the bottle. Whether you're trapping slugs or wasps, when your trap has done its job, you can pull the funnel out, dump the contents, and reload. To attract and trap slugs that may be munching on your plants, you can pour beer into the trap and place it under plants slugs are fond of. Tilt it slightly like you see in the photo on this slide to keep the beer from running out. The slimy slugs will crawl in through the opening and fall into the beer and drown. Sometimes things get a little dark in gardening. And to attract and trap problematic wasps, which I'm assuming we all feel less sympathetic towards, you can pour a couple of inches of a stale sugary soda with a few drops of dish detergent into the bottle, set it upright in a sunny spot where you have wasp issues. Wasps will fly into the trap to get the sugar and drown. Soap breaks surface tension, so when they land on the water, they will quickly sink. So in this diagram, you can see how a plastic water bottle can be used as a wicking irrigation system to keep tree saplings watered. I know this is not in English. I apologize for that. This is all I could find. In this same model, the same model can be applied using bottles to irrigate a number of other plants. You can create this plastic water bottle irrigation system using just a pipe and rope along with your bottle. This method was developed by a radical reforestation group in Oroville, India, known as Sadhana Forest. So A quick and dirty description of how to create this irrigation system is to gather your rope, pipe, and bottle, place the rope inside the pipe, make a knot on the rope at the first and second end of the pipe, measure the diameter of the pipe, and make a hole the size of the diameter of the pipe at the bottom of the plastic bottle. Then install the pipe and rope in the bottom of the plastic bottle. You can use glue to assemble the pipe and rope in the bottle. More specific directions on how to create this irrigation model will be sent out following this presentation. There are a few other ways you can repurpose plastic bottles into irrigation systems. So pictured in this slide is a more straightforward irrigation tube that can be used to water thirsty plants that you may not have time to be constantly watering. You can easily create this by taking 16 or 20-ounce plastic bottles, poking small holes through their sides so water can seep through, and then burying the bottle all the way in the ground close to the plant you intend to water, leaving just the top of the bottle visible. Then pour water in the top of the bottle whenever you want to water the plant. This system will slowly disperse water through the length of the bottle along the root of the plant. Yeah, and then this system's really great for if you're going away for the weekend too, and you don't want to worry about your plants not being watered. Keep them hydrated. So you can also create this nifty self-watering planter using an upcycled water bottle. This technique utilizes a wick to pull moisture up into the soil. As long as the reservoir is filled and the wick is in the water, there will be a steady supply for plant roots. So you can start with a 2-liter bottle and cut off the top third. Take off the cap and drill 2 1/4 inch holes in them. And then from the inside of the cap, poke the ends of the short length of the 1/4 inch cotton rope through each hole. The end should be long enough that when you screw the cap back on and put the planter in place, they will reach the bottom of the reservoir, leaving a loop of rope inside the cap so it'll stick up an inch or 2 into the soil. Once you have the length adjusted, screw the cap back on, add water, and slip the top of the bottle into the bottom part of the as you see in the photo. And fill it with potting mix and add your plant. So you can lift the top portion out when you need to add water, or cut a small hole in the side of the base so it's even easier to refill. Y'all asked about plastic bottles. I'm gonna keep giving you plastic bottle ideas. There's a lot of them. You can also make this planting container using a plastic water bottle. This one's super easy. You just turn a 2-liter bottle sideways, cut the bottle in half, use both halves to make 2 planters, cut small drainage holes into the bottom, fill with soil, and plant flowers or herbs inside. You can paint the outside of these containers to decorate them. You can also mount these water bottles on a wall or pallet to create an innovative upcycled gardening wall or wall art. Those are beautiful. And then, yeah, so there's 2 other upcycled plastic bottle vertical garden ideas I have pictured here. There's so many of these on the internet. These ones were just my favorite. But yeah, so to create the wooden frame mounted bottle garden pictured on the left, use 2-liter soda bottles, cut them in half, and use the next side. Turn these bottles upside down and adhere them to a wooden frame using a staple gun, arranging them in such a way so that the open neck of the bottle will drain water into the bottle below. Add a small piece of sponge or thick wood chips in a thin layer on the bottom of the bottle top to prevent soil from falling out. Alternatively, you can leave the cap on the bottom with a few holes punched in the lid. So you can then fill your bottles with a mixture of soil or compost up to about a 1/2 inch from the top of the bottle. The vertical bottle fence pictured on the right can be created with bottles retrofitted in the same way, adhering them to a fence using zip ties or durable weatherproof string. And shallow rooted plants such as lettuce and spinach can be good fits for these, depending on your spacing. Yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. Also, like herbs, or like, I don't know, like cilantro and coriander and stuff could be good for these. So milk jugs are another single-use plastic item that can be used in many different ways in your garden. Just like with their plastic bottle counterparts, milk jugs can be used to make a cloche. Cut the bottom off of your milk jug and then place them over young tomato and other plants to protect them from frost or chilly spring nights. You can also create a recycled seed starter by slicing off the bottom inch or two of your milk cartons and
You said you were eating meat yesterday.
Oh, sorry. I think some
Don't you still got?
Okay, sorry. Have to mute you. Okay, where was I? Okay. Yeah, okay, so yeah, you can place young tomato. Okay, sorry. Make sure everyone, if you can mute yourself, please. Thank you so much. Yeah, okay, so like I said, you want to protect small plants on chilly nights with this milk jug cloche. You can also create a recycled seed starter by slicing off the bottom inch or two of your milk cartons. Use them as a tray for seed and use them as a tray for starting seeds. You can do this by simply poking a few holes in the bottom of the milk jug for drainage, adding potting soil or seed starting mix, and plant seeds. If you use the top section as a cloche and the bottom as a seed starting container, you've gotten 2 great uses out of every milk jug. So you can also use milk cartons to grow food in a vertical garden on a fence. For the design you see pictured here, you can first collect a large amount of plastic milk jugs from either your own household, or you can ask your neighbors to save some up. After collecting enough to get started, you can wash them out, remove labels, and cut the jugs into a cup-like shape, leaving the handles on, but removing the lid section and adding drainage holes to the bottom. Next, get some curtain poles and screw them onto a fence. Once the cartons are threaded onto the curtain poles using the handles, lift them very slightly at the bottom and place a screw to the fence to take the whole weight off the curtain poles when the soil and water is filling the cartons. Plants that are good to grow in this upcycled vertical garden design are parsley, coriander, lettuce, strawberries, or even pak choi. Some other really simple garden projects you can do with milk jugs are creating watering cans and scoopers. Punch a series of small holes in the top of a gallon or half-gallon milk jug. Fill with water and use it to water your plants. You can make an easy garden scooper by slicing a milk jug at an angle. Just make sure you leave the lid on. And this works perfectly for grass seed, fertilizer, potting soil, and even bird seed. And for smaller jobs, you can use a half-gallon jug. So you can also use a milk jug to create a unique upside down vegetable planter. To create this, you'll need empty milk jugs, a hole puncher, newspaper, potting soil, fertilizer, hanging planter hooks or wire, and plants. You can use this type of planter for tomatoes, peppers, or just about any other kind of vegetable. Step-by-step instructions on how to create this will be sent out. And this planter is easy to create and makes a great project to do with kids to teach them about gardening. Another single-use plastic item that can be repurposed in your garden are takeout containers and plastic produce containers. You can make an easy seed starting tray using a takeout container by drilling a few holes in the bottom for drainage before adding soil, seeds, and water. Plastic containers can also be used as planters if they're sturdy enough to hold the weight of soil and they're deep enough to contain their roots. So produce containers can be reused as mini greenhouses. To create these little greenhouses, using a food container, you can first remove the stickers and labels from the packaging. After you have the labels removed, the next step will depend on the container you're using. So if you're using something like a fresh berry container, you don't need to do anything as they already have little slits in the plastic. However, if you're using something like cookie packaging or anything that doesn't have any slits, is more solid, you may need to make a few small holes. You can do this by simply taking some scissors or utility knife and poking holes in the bottoms or the sides. And then you can move on to adding dirt or your soil medium to these containers. And for things like, yeah, like cookie packaging, like I mentioned, you may need to flip them over. So you're filling whichever is the deepest side of them with dirt. And after you have your soil in, make small dimples of dirt with your finger and plant your seeds. Cover the seeds with soil and then water them. And then after you finish this, you can close the lid on your container and check every few days to make sure the soil is still moist. Make sure you place it in a sunny area. And after your seedlings have popped through the soil, keep a close eye on them. Just before they touch the top of the plastic is when it's time to open the container. If you leave them in there for too long or allow them to keep touching the top of the plastic, it can actually burn your seedlings with the sun. So just make sure you keep an eye on them. And then continue to water them and keep them in the container until they're about 4 inches tall or so. You do need to make sure you keep the soil moist in this critical growing period. And yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. And you can reuse these little containers for years to come. And oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention. So yeah, after like your seedlings are ready to go, you can take them out of the mini greenhouse and plant them in your garden. Okay, so tin cans also have potential to be upcycled into small container planters for herb gardens. You can easily repurpose tin cans into planters by first carefully cutting the top off of the can using a can opener. If the rim is jagged or sharp, line it with electrical tape so that you're spared the unpleasant experience of slicing your finger. Next, you'll need to drill holes in the bottom for drainage. You can do this using a drill with a metal bit or go with less power and use a hammer and nail. You'll need several small holes in the bottom. If you're using a 1 liter container, 4 small holes evenly spaced should be sufficient. For larger containers, 6 small holes should do the trick. And to help with drainage, place 2 inches of compostable material at the bottom of the can, such as shredded newspaper or cardboard. And this will create a permeable cushion between the bottom of the can and the soil. Then you can add potting soil and you'll be ready to sow your seeds or transplant small herbs. And if you're doing this project with kids or are a creative yourself, consider painting the outside with some colorful artwork. Plant labels for your garden can also be easily made from a variety of materials you might have lying around the house. Some ideas are that you can paint smooth flat stones or shells and stencil them with labels for your plants. You can reuse old wine corks for plant labels by pressing them onto the end of a fork. Single-use coffee cup lids or mason jar lids can be mounted onto sticks and attached to stakes to create plant labels. Sticks can also be used to create plant labels by using a knife to remove a small section of bark and writing your plant labels on the stick using a Sharpie. Yeah, you can also upcycle broken terracotta pots into plant labels by gluing metal wire stakes onto the back, then painting them with acrylic outdoor paint stenciling your labels, and then coating them with a spray-on glaze to make them more weather resistant. One of the best ways to protect your seed packets with all the information you need to remember is to slide it over a stake and cover with a glass jar. This weatherproof plant label is easy, long-lasting, and useful if you're a beginner gardener and need to remind yourself of all the steps necessary to take good care of your plants. So trellises are another important garden feature that can be made purely of upcycled materials. For these trellises, we'll be talking about natural materials, which I guess are technically upcycled too. Trellises serve as an important function for your garden for climbing plants like cucumbers, morning glories, tomatoes, peas, squashes, and other vines, which need support to reach their maximum potential. They can be completely utilitarian or they can be a work of art. You can easily build a bamboo pole trellis that is strong enough to help those heavier plants as they grow. You'll need bamboo for this project, which grows wild in most neighborhoods and can be harvested using a machete. Bamboo is invasive, so people might be happy to have you come and cut it down, even if it's in their yard. Just make sure you ask first. If you choose, you can simply tie bamboo stalks together with some twine into either a grid formation or a teepee-like formation to grow beans or other vining plants. Another less simple but still easy option is to create the bamboo trellis pictured on the right side of this slide. You can do this by cutting 6 poles per trellis to approximately the same length, which is somewhere between 8 to 12 feet potentially. Tie pairs or triads together by winding twine around them. Stick the untied ends of the bamboo in the dirt and lash crossbars across the top and bottoms. After the basic shape is erect, string the entire form with 6 to 8 vertical twine climbers. Tie at the bottom and go over the top bar and tie on the opposite sides. This basic A-shaped trellis is great for pole beans, nasturtiums, or other climbers. Large thin branches lying around your yard or your neighborhood can also be used to create beautiful and natural trellis structures for your garden. You can insert, well, this, I'll give you directions on how to make the one that's in the middle. The other ones are a little more straightforward, but also send directions out for those. So to make the really pretty trellis pictured in the middle of the slide, you'll insert 4 tall branches firmly around the edges of a container filled with rich potting soil. Beech branches are especially graceful for this structure, but any woody plant with lots of side branchings, such as butterfly bush, Japanese maple even, birch or high bush blueberries can be used. So you insert smaller branches into the soil between each of the large ones. Any that are too short to meet at the top can be woven in. Make sure there are plenty of fine twigs for tendrils to grasp. Weave in or snip any unruly branches sticking out and gather the tallest branches near their tops to tie them together with twine. And yeah, you can insert another round of little branches to fill in any holes, tuck in or tie or trim stray twigs on the inside as needed. And once you're finished building your stick trellis, you can plant sweet peas or other vining vegetables in your pot. So you can also repurpose old bathtubs into large raised planters for your garden. The best tub for planting is a cast iron tub with a porcelain enamel coating. Those might be hard to come by, but it's ideal. Porcelain enamel is a type of ceramic material made with clay and combined with inert materials. Porcelain enamel is 100% inert, as I said, so it's non-toxic, light but strong, non-porous, and non-stick. The enamel of a cast iron tub has been fired in extremely high temperatures, making it a form of highly durable glass. You can transform an old bathtub into a planter by first using food-safe materials to clean your bathtub thoroughly and attach little feet if they're not already built into the tub to allow for airflow and drainage. Drill at least 4/4 inch drainage holes in the bottom of your tub. Ensure the holes are free flowing. If the tub is sitting directly on the ground, drill holes a 1/2 inch from the ground and make space for water to drain. Spread 1 inch of gravel on the bottom of the tub for clear and easy drainage. Fill the tub with a soil mix designed for growing in containers. Fill to within 2 inches of the top to leave room for mulching in the coming years. And once you do all of this, your tub should be ready to plant. Sorry, it's not the best picture, but another innovative way you can upcycle a bathtub for your garden is to repurpose it into a worm farm. This can be built for under $100 with upcycled materials, or it could be free, depending on what you've got lying around or in your neighborhood. Firstly, you'll place your bathtub on a platform. Old chairs could be used for this, or you could build a stand for the bathtub out of old pallets. Cover the plug holes or drainage holes with chicken wire, and then cover the bottom layer of the bathtub with drainage rocks. Cover the rocks with a sheet of shade cloth or similar material so that you don't lose any worms into the rocks or down the drain hole. Make a cozy bed for your worms on top of the shade cloth with shredded paper. Layer with compost, soil, or manure, and then add in your worms. A bucket underneath the drainage hole catches the worm tea, and a bathtub is really an ideal length, width, and depth for a large worm compost bin, and the built-in drainage system makes it even more convenient for getting the most nutrients possible out of your composting systems. Okay, great. Sorry, I went a little bit over time. It's like 7:12. But yeah, so these are only a small handful of the myriad ways you can upcycle items commonly found discarded into functional and beautiful infrastructure for your urban garden. So on this slide are some great places to obtain upcycled materials. Second Chance and the loading dock in Baltimore sell upcycled items, but they also usually have piles of various materials that they give away for free. Free Cycle is a grassroots nonprofit movement of people who are giving and getting stuff for free, which operates locally and globally. There is a chapter in Baltimore. Craigslist has a free section. Facebook Marketplace and Nextdoor also have free sections that you can browse. I really love the Free Stuff Alerts app. So this app compiles local free giveaways from all of the apps that I mentioned, including Craigslist. And it just makes it really easy to see all of the different types of materials that are being given away in your neighborhood. So yeah, I hope that you are inspired to get creative and start planning your upcycled garden this spring. If you enjoyed this workshop and are excited to learn more about urban gardening, you can tune in on February 15th for our next workshop on permaculture for urban gardening, where I'll be teaching about permaculture design principles and how they can be applied to gardens in the city. So yeah, now we'll move on to our discussion part of the workshop. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself, or you can share them now in the chat. I see that there is so many messages in the chat that I haven't looked at, so sorry, I have to check these out. But yeah, if anyone has anything they want to say, feel free to unmute yourself in the meantime.
I just had one question. This has been so great, but the plastic that is used in the, with the recycled bottles and glasses, will that not leach plastic and little microplastics into the soil that would be bad for us?
It definitely could. I think that if they were used more in the long term, for like planting instead of just like raising like seeds, that would be more of a possibility. From what I understand, the plastic will break down over time. So yeah, I think for seedlings it would be okay, but yeah, that is definitely, it's definitely a concern. I think it's more so as using them for like a container for planting, whereas like the clochets or like some of the other like tools might be less of a risk for that. But that's definitely a big
Just so
issue.
for a short time.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll follow up about that and have some maybe some more research in the follow-up email I sent out. Thank you for that question. That's
And I just will say that I went on a service project a few years ago to Haiti, and we built tire gardens because Haiti doesn't have any soil. So that's how they were, the peasant movement was building up urban gardening and peasant gardening with tire gardens.
wow. Oh, that's so awesome. Whoa,
Yeah,
thank you for
it
sharing
was their
that.
only way. Yeah.
That's really great. Yeah. I think that, I mean, in the Anthropocene that we're living in, it's really, always an issue of depleting soil and having more trash around. So I think that that's such a cool project. And thank you for sharing that. Oh, I see Regia, you have your hand up. Would you like to talk?
Yeah, hi. So my question, I don't know if you can see me. Hi. Um, I put it in the chat as well, but I had a question about like styrofoam, and whether or not that's like a reusable material, because I know it's not like, it's for one, it's a horrible material that doesn't like really even decompose. And so I feel like that's something in packaging that I get a lot, and I don't know what to do because I hate throwing it away because I know it doesn't do anything good. It's not going to really properly decompose. But I was wondering if you came across any ways in which you can use styrofoam in the garden. And then I had a second question, but I'll let you answer that one first.
That is a great question. I have not come across any good ways to upcycle styrofoam, unfortunately. And I feel your pain with that because it's around so much and it just doesn't break down. And, it's funny. I have seen it used broken down in some potting soil mixes actually. And this was maybe like a while ago. I don't know if they're still doing it, but like I think some like companies used to use it, or maybe still do, as like something that like, I don't know, I guess it like absorbs water or like adds some kind of like, I don't know, maybe somebody else in this group would know more about it than I do, but I know that they were doing that, but I don't know if that's a great option for upcycling at all, because then you're putting the plastic like into the soil in the long term. So like, yeah, that'll be another thing. I'll write that down to follow up about. But yeah, thank you for that question. And yeah, feel free to share your other question.
Okay. And my other question has to do with like, I know that you talked about using like carry out containers as like a form of upcycling. And I didn't know if that included the materials that come with like, when you buy like strawberries or blueberries and it comes that plastic container with like the holes in it. Like I was wondering, like, can those be used to create like little like plant? I don't know exactly what they can be used for, but I was just wondering if that's something that can be used in the garden, because I don't know exactly what those could be used for. But I know like I feel like it's a suitable material for since it has holes in it that are already open and stuff.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, those are really great for the like the mini like greenhouses where yeah, you can like and I'll send out like pictures and stuff for this too, but yeah, just like filling them with soil, because a lot of those like for the blueberries and other produce like already have like the holes in them. So yeah, those make great like options for like starting seeds. And yeah, and since they're kind of, you can close them, they are regulating like the atmosphere in there and keeping like the seeds like nice and warm. But yeah, those are awesome, and yeah, are my favorite seed starting like things to use. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I'm looking through the chat. Anybody else have anything to say? Feel free to unmute yourself. So, Oh, thank you all for these great reactions in the chat. I'm just looking for questions. Oh, a mosquito trap. That's a great idea, Barbara. I really like that. I'll follow up about that too, but I think that could definitely be something that could be applied to the plastic bottle trap system. And that is really needed. Oh my gosh. I feel like there's more mosquitoes every year and they're living until like October or like November now. I'm like,
It's and they're vicious and they just are like, it's awful. So I really need something for them. I use dunks or those little dunk chip bits things like you put in ponds and things, and I put those around, and then I put those in like little plastic old bottles and things like that, and then refill those. But they don't nearly take care of the problem. It's something I need some ideas for those.
that is a great point. And yeah, I like that technique that you described too. Like that's really awesome. I'm gonna have to look into that too. Yeah, it's really hard. I've tried citronella, like just planting citronella, and people will talk that up on the internet, but like honestly, like I don't find it to be a deterrent unless I'm like right next to the citronella plant, you know?
Lemongrass, lemon balm. I got lemon, everything you can possibly think, because they're supposed to hate that too. It doesn't work. And the dogs get bit up, I get bit up. It's horrible.
Yeah, yeah. I feel your pain. It's really like it's crazy. It's horrible. Yeah, and it's like all these herbs that are supposed to help. Like, I don't know if the mosquitoes are just getting more resistant to it. Like maybe in the past it was helpful, but that's been my experience too, is like planting all of these different herbs and it's just they don't seem to care. Like,
Yep. It
yeah.
doesn't. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I know, ironically, I've heard that like having a small pond that's filled with fish and frogs can be helpful, but it also attracts more mosquitoes at the same time as they're like being eaten by these animals. So like yeah, my answer is I don't have a solution, but I'm gonna look into upcycling solutions and send them out.
Thermal guard. I don't know what's thermal guard
Oh, let me see
is.
in the chat. Demo guard. Oh yeah, I don't know what that is. Michael? Oh no. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If y'all are into like natural solutions for just like keeping mosquitoes off of you, I found this really great spray called I think it's like just called Naturapest, and I can send this out too, but like because I don't like using a lot of, you know, like I don't know, chemicals or like off or stuff like that. And this one's like I think it's made from like a synthesis of like a chrysanthemum plant or something like that. But that's like the best natural like bug spray I found, and it actually works like for real. And it's like herbal.
Yeah, I got another company that I use, and I'll see if I can find the email because I can't remember the name, but their spray is pretty good, and they've got incense sticks too.
Yeah, the incense definitely works.
The perimeter of the yard, but it's just I need a whole big smoke screen. It's just awful.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I think I saw, yeah, and Michael, thank you, Michael, for that the input in the chat. So yeah, I guess what did he say? I use small trays of water with mosquito dunks. Okay, so I guess we were kind of talking about that before, but yeah, that's awesome.
It's actually a thermocell, and it actually it heats up, and it has a heating pad on the top of it.
Got one
Like
of
I said,
those.
but you have to set it up ahead of time, and it's only good for about 10 or 20 feet around you.
Got those little pads that you got to buy in a gas tank cylinder thing, and
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's on the bottom inside.
thanks for that.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Michael. Oh, and Barbara, I saw in the chat also, you asked about cheap sources for soil. Are you in the Baltimore area or Maryland or?
Yeah, I'm in Northeast.
Oh, okay, great, cool. Yeah, I suggest, I mean, and it's hard because soil is like one of the more expensive parts of gardening, but yeah, I talked about a little bit in my like last workshop on budget gardening that like veterans compost and Holland's organic. I think Holland's organic is cheaper than veterans compost for soil. They're pretty good. And if you have like a couple people in your neighborhood or friends that also are interested in gardening, like if y'all like throw down together and get it in bulk, it's like a lot cheaper to do that than like buying the bags of soil at like Lowe's and stuff, which just is like insanely expensive, especially nowadays, like post-COVID, when everyone's gardening, they've just like jacked up all the prices for just dirt. So yeah, I definitely would say that. And like also like just composting really helps with that too, because then you don't have to keep buying soil. You can kind of just be like making your own over time.
Doing that, but it's just not generating fast enough for
Yeah,
yeah. So I need something like I need a first delivery, and then I'll be able to maintain it from there.
yeah, no, totally. I hear that. And like I know the grow centers that like the Department of Public Works has, I don't know if they give away soil. I think maybe they have in the past. But they're a good resource. I think sometimes they give away soil.
Okay. I'll see about that because I got a workshop tomorrow with them. So
Oh, cool. Yeah, they're great. They're great. Yeah, and I think, like even just asking them like at the workshop, like, hey, this would be great if y'all provided this, like they would be open to it because I think they're always like looking for new things to help out Baltimore gardeners with. I've heard inside information that they'll be be giving away some vermicomposting systems. So if y'all are interested in worms, definitely check out the growth centers this year.
thank you.
Yeah, and I agree, Joe. I see your comment in the chat of bulk soil and mulch distribution points would be really helpful in the city. I completely agree. And I hope that that's going to be something that'll be like instituted as like Baltimore moves more towards like a zero waste plan. And we have this like, municipal composting facilities. Yeah, I think that that's something that everybody would benefit from, and especially moving into the green economy where we're all going to be gardening hopefully on some level in the city. I see that happening a lot. I think that that would be great, so definitely noted. And yeah, I'll try and push for that in any meetings that I'm in if anyone would listen to me. Yeah, okay. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Did I miss anything? Did anybody else have a question that they wanted to ask or? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, this has been so much fun. Thank you all so much for coming. Yeah, oh, sorry, what'd you say?
The site is called Murphy's Naturals.
Oh, for soil?
No, for bug stuff,
Oh,
insect repellent.
okay. That was what Michael was talking about, or is that the one?
That's the one that I use.
Okay.
Stuff and the incense sticks.
Oh, Murphy's Naturals. Oh, okay. I think I've heard of them. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, they're great. Yes, this is exactly. Yeah, this is, I mean, okay, I was talking about a different one, but actually I've also used this one. It has almost a similar label. This is great. Yeah, their incense sticks are amazing. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But it's expensive. It's pricey. When you want to like take care of the whole summer and get rid of the mosquitoes. So I'm looking for a much more natural, economical way to do this. It's got to be a way.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like natural and economical. I feel that. And I think that's something that like honestly, like the city should be doing more to address, because now there's like all these like reports from Johns Hopkins about like mosquitoes, carrying like the West Nile and malaria, and how they're like breeding in like vacant homes and things like that. So I think that like it really needs to be addressed on like a systematic level, but like also in a natural way that's not like, you know, spraying tons of chemicals into the air and giving us cancer, you know, like, I don't know.
Predators. So that's the big issue.
Exactly, yeah, like it's weird being part of the food chain, like
Right.
having to deal with that. It's like, oh my god. But thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Murphy's is great. Yeah, thank you for that question, and I'm definitely gonna look into that more and maybe, you know, yeah, try and send out some info if I come across any good resources on that.
So thanks a bunch.
Yeah, oh, well, thank you. It was nice virtually meeting you all. I hope I see you at the next workshop, and I'll be following up soon. Yeah, thanks for coming out. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.